Buckle your seatbelt. It's time for another episode of the Prepper Recon Podcast. I've personally been buying gold and silver from JM Bullion for over 2 years. They offer the best prices over spot that I can find, and I've never had a problem with an order. If you're looking to trade in some of your fiat paper for real money, check out jmbullion.com today. Ready Made Resources is a trusted name in the prepper community because they've been around for 18 years. They offer great prices on night vision, water filtration, long-term storage food, solar energy components, and provide free technical service. Get ready for an uncertain future at readymaderesources.com. Today's guest is Future Dan of futuredanger.com. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And so tell us a little bit about futuredanger.com. What exactly is that site?
Future Danger is a unique website that we put together to not just aggregate news that is of interest to the preparedness community, but to curate it in real time. And what I mean by curate is we try to put the news into context. Unlike any other website out there who sort of just throws news at people and let them try to understand what the consequence of that news is. We start with a different premise. We bring a consequence, a condition that would be threatening to Americans if it became fully realized, and we apply news to it. And we put it in different grade levels. So if it's minor news that is generally related to, for example, the stock market crashing. This morning the stock market dropped 200 points at its open. Is that a stock market crash? No. If the stock market crashed, would it do that morning? Yes. So we're going to put that piece of news against the stock market crashing and grade it low. If the news continues to get worse in that particular area, we will add more news and elevate it as we go. And in this manner, the homepage of futuredanger.com operates as a situational awareness portal, so to speak. You can find out at a glance what's heating up, what is a threat as you move through life on a daily basis with preparedness in the background of your mind, which threats are emerging. Our website is designed to help you see that quickly and clearly.
And was there a single event that woke you up to the need to prepare?
The 2008 financial crisis really woke me up. And what happened during that is we had the Treasury Secretary and the Federal Reserve Chairman meeting in the White House. We had presidential candidates coming off the campaign trail and meeting in the White House. We had massive bailouts passed by Congress suddenly. I was looking at that, and I have some education in economics, college education and different levels of economics, and I didn't quite understand what was happening. But I knew it was unprecedented. I knew that this sort of thing wasn't supposed to be happening in the American economy. And as I watched the effects of the 2008 financial crisis, it dawned on me, as it has a lot of people, that whatever happened there was merely patched over. If a recession was supposed to happen, it didn't. They found a way to postpone it, kick it down the road. That right there was the eye-opener for me. There's a lot of threats to our liberty and threats in international security and terrorism. There's a lot of movement on very heavy and serious and frightful diseases and natural disasters. Those are all out there. They're all covered on our website. But it's the economic sphere that really woke me up to the fact that things aren't the way they used to be, and they could be quite dangerous to all of us.
And what inspired you to start FutureDanger.com?
As I moved personally into the mode of becoming prepared for these events, and I started getting involved in reading websites, reading blogs, watching YouTube videos from a lot of great channels out there from people who are doing this and very passionate and very informed about it. And I'm watching network television shows like Doomsday Preppers, which, you know, a lot of people have commented that the producers of that show are actually kind of mocking preppers as they go through it. but nevertheless, the people on the show are always passionate and serious about it. And every one of those episodes, they talk about John is preparing for a polar shift, or Sue is preparing for economic collapse. And in every episode, they had the rationale for prepping. And as I was educating myself to the entire community, the entire movement, I started to make a list of reasons people prepare. And eventually it became what you'll see on the homepage of futuredanger.com, which is what we call the indicator system. It's almost 500 discrete threats, discrete conditions that if they became fully realized, most Americans would agree that's dangerous to us. And if several became highly evidence for several of them became obvious at the same time, people would rightly start talking about crisis conditions. So it was my preparation or my movement into the preparedness community and being oriented towards what people had to say there caused me to start thinking about what are people preparing about. And FutureDanger.com is intended to help people see the current status of the very things that they prepare for.
And it's a great looking website. When I look at this site, it's super easy to understand what you're doing, why the colorations for the different headlines for the news feeds are the colors that they are, as they're green, and then they go to the yellow, and they approach sort of a redder color as the threats get higher and higher. So it's super easy to click on it and see it. And it reminds me a little bit of like a Drudge report. But if you categorized all of the different Drudge headlines, which when you go to Drudge, obviously that doesn't happen. They're not categorized. So here, anything that's pertaining to an economic meltdown, we see that all in one category. If we're talking about terrorism, that's all in another category. If we're talking about an assault on our First Amendment rights or our Second Amendment rights, those are two separate categories. Whereas Drudge, everything's sort of coming up as to when it was posted. So this breaks all that down. I think that's just that's fantastic. Have I got a grip on how that's working there with the color codes? You want to go into a little more detail on that?
You're absolutely right. That is how it works. There's another level of technology that we had built into this website that would make it quite different from Drudge. And due respect to that guy, his idea of having you're curating news that is of interest to an audience on one web page. Obviously, when you go to Future Danger, we have immense respect for what he's done and think there's a market for other forms of news that similar to what Drudge has done. When you look at our page, what's different is we have bundles. We bundle the news, and each bundle has what I was speaking about earlier, the indicator, the threat indicator. And they're color-coded. That's our advisory system. Cooler colors means that the news we decide is of less intensity, less threat at the current moment, although that can change quickly. If you go far enough down on the web page, there's all the blue indicators. They're towards the bottom. They have no news against them. They're blue because there's no evidence that they're a threat right now. Nevertheless, they are conditions that could heat up quickly, so we have them. But when they're green, yellow, orange, red, and a color we haven't used, and let's pray we don't have to use, which is black, which would be fully realized, one of these indicators becoming 100% true and dangerous. When news is found, it's graded, it's applied to the indicator, and it's graded. But what people might not see immediately, if they visit the website frequently, they might begin to realize these bundles move within their column. And that's based upon traffic. That's based upon user interest. So the homepage is a heat map. It tells you where the hot pieces of news are, but it's also bidirectional. Our audience, as it clicks on news stories gives us feedback as to what they are concerned about, what is driving their interest, and the bundles compete with each other inside the columns for the highest rank inside the column. So, for example, it's quite possible that we grade a piece of news as level 1 green, not particularly threatening at this point in time, and we grade another at orange, high level of threat in our opinion. And our audience goes ahead and clicks the green one like mad and doesn't click the orange one, and then the green one will settle higher in the column. It's telling us what our audience cares about. We don't think that there's another website out there that has the ability to show the trends of our audience back to us and our audience in such a manner. It's one of the unique aspects of FutureDanger.com. The more traffic we get, the stronger these algorithms work, and the more information we all gain.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Katie Armor offers affordable body armor, including level 3 trauma plates made of AR-500 steel. These plates can endure multiple rounds from pistols and rifles up to 7.62 NATO. Use coupon code PrepperRecon to get 10% off your entire order at katiearmor.com. That's CATI armor.com.
Get prepared before disaster strikes. PrepperRecon.com offers MOLLE-compatible individual first aid kits for your home, auto, or bug-out bag. These kits have everything you need to address a traumatic injury, including an Israeli battle dressing, quick clot, EMT shears, suture kit, steri-strips, tourniquet, tough strip bandages, and so much more. Kits are available in OD Green, Coyote, Black, and ACU. $99 includes shipping. Go to PrepperRecon.com and click the Store tab at the top of the home page. Order today before it's too late.
Hey Preppers and Patriots, we just passed the 3rd anniversary of the Prepper Recon podcast, and it couldn't have happened without you. To say thanks, I want to send you a free PDF of the 7-Step Survival Plan. It's a basic blueprint that will help you prioritize your efforts and make sure you're not missing any important areas of prepping. To get your free copy, just email me. It's prepperrecon@gmail.com and put 7-Step PDF in the subject line. Thanks again for 3 great years of the Prepper Recon podcast. And how important do you think situational awareness and threat assessments are to developing a course of action for your family or your prepper group?
I think it's critical. There's sort of 2 problems that Future Danger is designed to solve, and they're maybe not distinct from each other, but they're a little bit different. So let me describe both of them to you. There's people that are prepared there's people preparing for all kinds of events, and we talked about that earlier, but they have a dilemma. Their particular lifestyle, their career, what have you, causes them to live in highly populated places. Lots of people live in cities, obviously, and in the event of a significant crisis, conventional wisdom says retreating from urban areas is advisable. Now, I know there's another movement about bugging in and urban survival, and I think most people will say you do those sorts of things because you have to. If all the opportunities to leave an urban area were presented to you during a crisis, it perhaps is wiser to leave the urban area. So urban and suburban preppers most intend to evacuate as early as possible, but because of their careers and their families and their lives, they need to evacuate no sooner than necessary. And before Future Danger, these folks, in order to do this, they would need to maintain vigilance of multiple news sources constantly so that they can move on short notice to less populated areas. And that kind of constant monitoring is difficult. In fact, the news industry is set up in a way where channels want you to become devoted to them, and browsing across channels takes a lot of work to gather information that way. The second dilemma is related. There's an ever increasing amount of online news. It can be feel like a torrential downpour of information, and for unprepared people, it seems not to matter to them. But for our community, we can't afford to be overwhelmed by redundant news, and we can't afford to be distracted by useless news. And I mean that literally, useless news when it comes to your preps. You don't want to overreact to news that the media is hyping. And perhaps more importantly, you don't want to underreact when the media is downplaying or ignoring real threats. So Future Danger is designed to solve these two problems because people in these situations, the urban, suburban preparedness people who have plans to move, to retreat, to get away from larger cities, they absolutely cannot miss critical signals that would put their personal survival plans into motion. They have to have those, and they have to have them in a timely manner. Our grading system on FutureDanger.com is designed to let people assess the risk for themselves, and when enough factors have accumulated to put their plans into motion, they do that. Our website will never tell people time to bug out. Our website will say this is the current state of affairs, and let informed people make their best decisions.
Yeah, it's really impossible to prepare if you don't have any idea of what you're preparing for. And I loved what you said about useless news. A couple weeks back when the Ring of Fire was getting so active, and we had the 7.1 in southern Japan, the 7.8 in Ecuador, and the volcanoes going off in Mexico, the news was inundated in that news cycle was completely covered by which bathroom is Caitlin going to go to, which, that has some long-term, effects on our culture and yes, it's a threat because now we're going to have men going into women's bathroom, and I don't want a man in the bathroom when my wife's in there, but when it's completely covering over everything else, and you're not hearing about a 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Ecuador, there's a problem with the news channels. So somewhere like Future Danger is not going to be overwhelmed by Caitlin and how she's dressed today and what bathroom she goes to.
Absolutely. There's certain things that we don't cover. And as we go and we build audience, and we have a very aggressive Twitter account that pushes our alerts out to the Twitter sphere, what we run into is there are so many people that are absorbed by partisan politics, temporary political stories. I would agree when it comes to transgender bathrooms that in the short run there is no threat. In the long run societally, perhaps there is. If there is, I think when it comes to North Carolina, it may be along the lines of a 9th and 10th Amendment issue and the federalization of law in general, as opposed to letting states be, what they're supposed to be, incubators of jurisprudence, and let the marketplace of ideas rule rather than forcing a solution on a 315 million person country. But in the short run, you won't find that type of controversy on FutureDanger.com. We're going to cut through that noise. We're going to the largest extent possible, we use official titles of political leaders rather than their names. For example, when the president acts, we refer to him as POTUS and not his name. We don't push ad hominem attacks. We feel these, to your point, these are aspects of the modern media environment that we consider noise. And we want to cut through that because our users need rapid situational awareness to make good decisions. Our belief is people who obsess with political parties and personalities and media-driven hype in the short run are wasting their most valuable resource, which is time. And our users need to focus on making faster, better decisions in their daily lives without that clutter. So our challenge in Twitter has been to help build an audience that kind of gets it, because social media is just a raging domain of some of the most temporary partisan battles going on, and sometimes if you're conspiracy theory oriented, you believe that some of that is drummed up to distract attention from, for example, geologic conditions around the Pacific, which obviously point to certain silent zones in the U.S. Pacific Northwest, which haven't seen an eruption or an earthquake of any size in quite some time, and quite possibly could very soon, a.k.a. Seattle and Yellowstone, right?
Right. Yeah. And what's the biggest threat on your personal radar right now?
I'm watching China in the South China Sea and how aggressive they may become. And that touches on a host of indicators for future danger. We watched the restart of the Korean War, which has been at a crisis level for weeks now, and seems to not get the media attention one would think it would. I mean, the North and South Korea are doing things that are somewhat unprecedented. And of course, China's building artificial islands out of the seabed, dredging the floor and building up basically permanent aircraft carriers right near the Philippines. They're doing unprecedented things. And every once in a while we get reports of China and Japan facing off, and Taiwan doing unusual things that the Chinese military may have a reaction to. So the entire Western Pacific is of a concern for us. But it would probably be the runner-up, and the leading domain that is of concern for us is the economy. And when certain people capitulate to the idea that we probably have been in a recession for months, and the data that is being foisted on us is not accurate. And when that happens, I think there's going to be hell to pay. There will be a reckoning. And every once in a while we hear great business moguls come out and speak to these issues. Which particular indicator on the future danger? Column 3 is our economics. Everything in column 3 relates to the economy and to prosperity and to the material well-being of people. There is which one of those indicators pops off first, I don't know, but it could be one of several. And when they do, I believe that there's something to the effect of a house of cards sitting there, and we could see many things collapse rapidly. We were watching yesterday Warren Buffett making statements publicly at his annual meeting when he was asked from the audience about derivatives and the danger to his fund of derivatives. He was very blunt and said that he still believes they're a time bomb. For members of the audience that haven't seen the movie The Big Short, I think people ought to see it. It does an excellent job of teaching people what a derivative is. But like I said earlier, one of the emphasis of forming Future Danger was the 2008 financial crisis, and that was all about derivatives. And it doesn't seem like the derivatives threat is less in 2016. In fact, it may be greater. And if those bets are called in a major way, as Buffett was mentioning yesterday, people won't know the value of things in Wall Street. Things won't have a known value if it all starts falling. And when markets completely stop operating, no one knows what anything is worth. Now you're talking about real collapse. Though that is perhaps the area that is my number one worry. What would this country look like for weeks or months or years if we had a collapse where the markets really stopped working?
Yeah, and I think you're right. And John Thornton, the previous president of Goldman Sachs, was on a show last week, and he said that this is all going to end in tears, and everything that was wrong in 2008, none of those underlying issues have been addressed. It's all been exacerbated, actually. And as you said before, the can's been kicked down the road, and the day of reckoning is going to show up sooner or later. And folks need to be ready. And I hope they'll go to futuredanger.com and watch those indicators, especially for it's just great for everything. It's like you said, for terrorism or economics or whatever, and it does. It just filters out the noise, and I think it's a great idea that you had, and I think you've executed it very, very nicely, and I think this is going to be a very, very valuable tool in the hands of preppers for situational awareness. Can you tell us one more time where we can go to be situationally aware?
It's futuredanger.com, and you can find us on Twitter at the handle at futuredanger6, number 6. Everything we post, not everything, most news that is posted from the website will be launched out on Twitter. Unlike most links you see in Twitter, we're going to bring you back to the homepage, because the idea is I don't want you to just see that source of news. I want you to come back and see the context within which we posted it, and see the neighboring bundles, see the rank, the order, the grade, and get a feel for the temperature, the heat of the news, help you make better decisions that way.
Dan, thanks so much for making time for us today.
Thank you for having me.
In 7 Cows, Ugly and Gaunt, Book 1, Behold Darkness and Sorrow, Daniel Walker begins having prophetic dreams about the judgment coming upon America for rejecting God's word. Through one of his dreams, Daniel learns of an imminent threat of an electromagnetic pulse attack, sending the country into a technological dark age. If they want to live, Daniel and his friends must focus on faith, wits, and preparation to be ready before the lights go out. Buy your copy of 7 Cows, Ugly and Gaunt, Book 1, Behold Darkness and Sorrow, by best-selling author Mark Goodwin, in paperback, Kindle, or audio edition from Amazon.com today.